I got an email last night from a friend who is a film producer and director in Los Angeles, and I haven't gotten back to her about whether I can use her name on the air, so I'm not going to. But she sent a note to me and several other people in California saying, so I just checked my voter registration in California's voter databases. I wanted to make sure everything was fine, as I have been a registered Democrat in California since I was 18. Guess what? When I checked the California online database, I was not registered. Me, not registered. So I called in the morning and the woman said that I was registered. Then I said, when I go online, I'm not registered, and I had to withstand a long list of options to get to a person. If the database that is connected online has me not registered, what happens at my polling place? Then I put this online, and this is happening to a bunch of my friends, she writes. We are all finding out that we're not registered per the online database. So if you are in California, apparently registered Democrats are being kicked off. I mean, literally, it's not that she got re-registered as a Republican. She's not registered at all, according to the online database. And what the hell is going on here? This has got to be one of the biggest stories of the year. And I've seen no evidence that any of the big networks or the organizations that have the resources to really dig into this are digging into what's going on. I want to know, does this have something to do with Chris Kobach? Chris Kobach is the Secretary of State in Kansas, Sam Brownback's elections guy. And he has put together this voter database that encompasses, I believe, over 30 states, so that they can look for identical names in different states. So you can say, hey, if there's a Thom Hartmann registered in Georgia and there's a Thom Hartmann registered in Kansas, and we've got a really tight election here in Kansas, and especially if he's registered as a Democrat, well, we can just delete the one from Kansas, because obviously the same guy's registered in two different places and it shouldn't be. In fact, what the heck? Let's delete the Georgia one and let him tell us. Now, whether it's working that way or how it's working, we don't know. What we do know is that before the last election, where Cory Gardner won Colorado, for example, over 300,000 people were purged from the Colorado voting rolls. That was just 2 years ago, year and a half ago. And that this is happening all over the country, and the Republicans are just pushing this like crazy. And in fact, it gets even worse. If you live in Wisconsin, this is astonishing. There's a piece over in Salon today about this by Elias Isquith, who is a writer for Salon magazine. And the headline, Republicans lied in Wisconsin. Here's what you need to know about the state's voter ID law. Here's how you know that the state's voter ID law is a complete sham. And Elias writes, on April 5th, when voters cast ballots in Wisconsin's Republican and Democratic primaries, the state's controversial voter ID bill will face its biggest test since Governor Walker signed it into law in 2011. It's because it had been in abeyance for the last two election cycles. Judges had put it on hold, but now it's in force. And the law, by the way, requires the state to run public service announcements just before the election to tell voters what kind of ID they need to bring to the polls so that they can vote. But the Wisconsin legislature, which is entirely controlled by Republicans, has refused to appropriate the money to pay for those public service announcements, those ads telling people what ID they need to vote. So the people in Wisconsin, if you live in Wisconsin, you are not being told what ID you need to bring to the polls. And it turns out that, the agency that is supposed to do the notifying is the Government Accountability Board. It's a nonpartisan agency and responsible for producing voter education materials. And in October, this is way back last October, the agency met with the Republican State Senator Mary Lazich and said, we need $300,000 to $500,000 to pay for these ads to let people know what kind of ID they need to bring. According to Kevin Kennedy, I'm reading from this Salon piece, the board's director and general counsel, Lazix, thanked the board for the information but didn't make any promises. Why would the legislature just kind of blow off the board? Well, it turns out that the legislature was in the process of destroying the board altogether. In fact, the legislature has already introduced a bill to dismantle the agency. This is what, again, from this piece in Salon. 2 days after the meeting, the Wisconsin Assembly voted to replace the nonpartisan board with two partisan agencies by the end of June 2016. Since 2012, Republicans have attacked the board after it investigated, among other things, whether Governor Walker coordinated with outside political groups during the recount battle that gripped the state. Judicial orders stalled the investigation, and the board eventually took itself out of the probe. So, the board never even got to find out if Scott Walker broke the law. And they're guessing between 200 and 350,000 Wisconsin voters who are on the voting rolls right now will not be able to vote because they don't even have the right ID. And then on top of that, you're going to have another couple 100,000 who bring the wrong ID to the poll, stand in line for 3 hours, and then are told, hey, come back later.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
So if you're in Wisconsin, the Republicans are coming to get you. I mean, they really don't want people voting because they know that that's the only way they can win elections is by voter disenfranchisement.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.